A really interesting project here. I'm just going to get right into it. This is a Tesla Model S that I got for a whole bunch of projects, and yeah, I kind of I did the first video with the supercharging the Tesla at 65,000 watts, and a few days before that, I was getting some errors on the car. Something was kind of weird, and I was getting a bunch of errors. So let me just turn on my live chat here so I can see everybody's comments. So I ended up, doing a few things. I first troubleshot the problem and found out that I had an isolation error, which is basically an electrical short in the car on the high voltage side. Hey, what's up, Kaboom 362? Yeah, I'm trying to get on top of my stuff here. I've just been really behind. So basically, I ended up having a high voltage isolation error with the car, and I looked it up on the Tesla forums, and they said it was like anywhere from $12,000 to $15,000 to get it fixed. So what I ended up doing is, I'll show you the car. There's the subframe right there. Let me know if there's anything you want to see. And I really wish these messages would show up in landscape. Things that when you do live streams in portrait, everything shows up fine, but in landscape I can't see the messages. Let me just let this car down. Hey, what's up, India? Yeah, so it was so the high voltage ISO error was I think it was F027. I'm gonna just let this down and pay attention so I don't mess up the car. So, I just hit the subframe. There we go. So basically, it was an ISO fault F027, and which basically just means a general isolation fault. Doesn't really know where it is. So, for anybody that's not familiar with electric cars, this was my first time really tearing into it. But what that means is that there's see all those orange cables in there? Means that there was an isolation fault. Oh, let me turn on my light, which basically means, so Kaboom. So basically what happened is there was an ISO fault in between the high voltage cable and ground. So the BMS, which is the battery management system, as soon as you open the door to the car, the computers kick on, and the BMS measures resistance between that high voltage cable right there and ground, and then the negative high voltage cable and ground. And if there's too much resistance, apparently more than, I think it was 1.8 million ohms or 3 million ohms, depending on which circuit, then it goes into an ISO fault. And what that means is there's high resistance between the high voltage cable and ground, which is basically a short on the high voltage side. Not a complete short though, it's just high resistance. So the nice thing about the BMS and the Teslas is that it catches the problem before the problem gets big. So really quick, I'm just trying to see if I can let this car down anymore so I can show you all the components. So I have to rip the whole car apart to check every single problem, every single component, I mean. And I also took the BMS out, I'm sorry, the MCU. So that whole screen right there, that whole screen with that computer that's mounted to the back is all that's underneath that dashboard. That's it. And you got an airbag and some aesthetics, some trim, and then you have the screen, that little screen right there. That's your cluster, your instrument cluster, I guess. But that's all that runs this entire car. It's that MCU, which is that screen, which they call media control unit, and this has the 2021 version. That's it. That and some wiring and a CAN bus, which is right there, that runs throughout the whole car. And then you have the battery underneath. I'll show that to you right now. But to get to the nitty gritty here, I'm going to show you, just looking for something to stand on so I can get up there. Here, I'll just put the camera in there. So first thing I have to do to check the isolation fault is check all these components here. So that component right in the middle of the screen, that's the coolant heater. Over there is the forward junction box. So that's what takes the high voltage cables from the back of the car. Those two cables you see on the left right there. Let me just point right there. That's the power coming in from the high voltage junction box that I'm about to show you under the rear seat. That comes to the front, which is the forward junction box. Then it gets distributed to the coolant heater, that other thing down there, which is called the DC to DC converter, right in the center of the screen. That powers everything on the car that's 12 volts, including charging this tiny little lawnmower battery right here. This car has I think what you're saying by battery packs, I think you mean the bricks. There's 16 bricks in this car. And yeah, so then those high voltage cables from that forward junction box also run to this 3-phase AC compressor right here. And then right back there, this is the all-wheel drive version, the dual motor. I don't know if you could see that thing. I'm putting everything right in the center of the screen so you could kind of interpret it. That right there is the front drive motor. This one was 2015. And then this is the air pump for the suspension. Those are some centrifugal pumps for all the coolant, a couple diverter valves to determine where the water's flowing, the ABS unit right there, and then underneath all that is the power booster unit and the broken windshield. So one thing I want to show you about the Tesla, I love these cars, they're great. I've been meaning to jump into these projects like 5 years ago. But the one thing I don't like is that they're built like toys. So check this out. So I put my hand there by accident, not realizing it was the windshield, and busted the whole windshield. And if you take a look here, I'm going to try to show you, this is kind of high up, but there is no support. That's all glass right there. All the way up to about right there. There's a support right there, but that whole overhang here, it's just glass. And I don't know if you could see that moving, but if you put any pressure on that, that sucker's breaking. So, and that's the air tank for the air suspension. If you have any questions, throw them here. I'll show you whatever you want. I don't know why my messages keep on. Yeah, Mr. Indian Hacker. Yeah, I'm really familiar with high voltage stuff. I've worked on 12 kV systems, not 400 volts DC, which is this car. DC's a little bit different, but it's not too bad. I mean, as long as you're careful. I mean, the arc on 400 volts DC is not very wide, so let me just see if I can open this up. See, that's the one thing about Tesla, is that if you have the battery disconnected, you cannot open the back doors, which the front doors you could open if the battery's disconnected, but not the back. So I guess if you have kids, you have an accident, well, get yourself out of the car and sacrifice your kids. I guess that's the way they see it, because there's no way to get these back doors open unless you reach under here and you pull this little like tab. So if I pull that tab, I'll be able to get that door open. But I just want to show you this high voltage junction box. This is where everything, basically this is where all the magic happens, or like they say in MTV Cribs, where all the action happens. These two cables here, I'm just going to point everything out. Excuse me, April. Beep beep. This is my dog. She's like a Velcro dog. She's always under my feet. So I'm just going to point all these cables out for you real quick. And the reason I did this live stream is because I haven't seen anybody really cover this stuff on the Tesla much. I saw one channel called Weber Auto. So yeah, Kaboom 362. So what happened with this, and I'm going to show you in a second, is my isolation fault was just under threshold. So all the Tesla documents I have say, 3 million ohms or less, or I think actually for the drive motor or the inverter, it's 4 million ohms or less. But all the documents I see say 3 million ohms or less. I was at 1.8 to 2.8 million. So I was just under the threshold. It wasn't like a complete short. And that's why I had a lot of trouble finding it, because, I mean, an electrical short is enough of a pain in the butt with a regular conventional car. Can you imagine this? All these high voltage cables. But basically, I'm going to point these out. So these are the cables coming in from the battery pack. They go into that distribution block. And then these two cables, which are disconnected, run out that way to the drive inverter and the drive motor. These two cables right here come right in from the charging port right back here. And the reason they have these cables kind of routed this way is because when these cars do supercharging, there's these two little relays right here. As soon as you hook this up to supercharging, it communicates with the junction box, closes those contactors, and now it makes a direct connection from the charging port to these two cables right here that go out to the battery. So basically you're not running through these chargers. And real quick to show you, this car has dual chargers. This is a 96 amp system. So this is the slave charger, as you can see right there, and that is the master charger. So when this power comes in from the charging port, it's routed to these two chargers here, 1 and 2 depending on the amperage, and it's distributed to the battery pack that way. And these are all the cables going to and from the two chargers. Those two little high voltage cables are the cables running to the forward junction box. And you know, one of the reasons these EV cars go with higher voltage, like the Porsche's 800 volts, they probably save a ton of weight on wiring, because as you go up on the voltage, you can make, you know, all the wiring smaller. So this is 400 volts DC. I think the new Porsche is 800 volts DC. So yeah, so that's the dual chargers and the high voltage junction box. Now I'm going to move to the underneath of the car. And the title of this live is, you know, this car almost had me defeated. And that's because I almost decided to either just get rid of the car or send the car to the dealer to get fixed. I just want to show you the battery pack for those who have not seen the Tesla battery packs before. Okay, perfect. So the hole underneath here, the hole underneath of the car, is one big battery pack. And it's all air suspension. This is the higher end model. And then right up here on top, we have the rapid mate connectors. So these connect those high voltage cables that I was just showing you to that junction box. And this is the control wiring coming from the BMS, the battery management system, into the car. And that's about it. Other than that, it's pretty simple. Oh yeah, I'm sorry. That's a good question. The power steering motor is DC or AC? I think it's DC. This motor, however, is AC. So this is the main drive motor. Yeah, it sure does. The Transit Subway operates 600 volts. Yep, I do remember that. So yeah, so this is the actual motor, and this is an AC motor, which is why you need an inverter here. So right here on these two bus bars, it's kind of unnerving touching that, but these two bus bars are the 400 volts DC in, and this is obviously the control for that. It's kind of like a big, it's almost like an or I guess it is an electronic speed controller. It's an ESC as well as an inverter all in one. So what this does is this takes the 400 volts DC coming in from the battery, converts it into AC current, and then they alter the frequency to control the speed of the drive, and they also control the amplitude. So I'm sure there's a lot of processing going on where, you know, if you go full throttle and you know, it's monitoring the RPM, it's probably increasing the frequency by a certain percent as the speed of the drive increases. That's what I'm guessing. So anyway, so getting to the point of this video, after familiarizing you with all the components on the car, I finally ended up pulling this drive unit out, and I decided, well, you know, what am I going to lose? It's 5,000 bucks. Oh yeah, I'll tell you about the cooling right now. So it's 5,000 bucks for this drive unit used. Tesla does not sell it new. So if I wanted to buy a new one, or if I need to buy a used one, I'm sorry, it's going to cost me $5,000. So I figure, what do I really have to lose? If I pull it apart and figure it out, then you know, I'll be up $5,000, because nothing on this car is cheap. So my problem ended up being, and I'll show you in the final video, when I opened this, coolant came pouring out of this cover right over here. So check this out. Oh, you can still see a little bit of residue in there, like some of those coolant stains dried up. And yeah, this drum had some coolant inside, and as you can imagine, 400 volts DC mixed with coolant is not a good thing. But like I said, the one thing about these cars is that the battery management system, as far as I know, is second to none. So it catches those isolation faults really early on before it causes any damage, because I would imagine you get more coolant in here conducting, you know, it's going to cause some serious problems. So what I'm going to do in the video that I'm making for this channel is I'm actually ripping this whole thing apart. And again, I went into this with absolutely no knowledge of Tesla at all. I have never worked on a Tesla before this. I know how inverters work. I know how individual components work. I know how coolant works. I know how electricity works. I know how cars work, and I know engineering. So putting all those together and a lot of common sense. And one thing with these cars that I noticed, the key to success is you absolutely have to be careful every single step. Like the windshield. I put my hand in the wrong place, boom, 700 bucks on a windshield, gone in 2 seconds. So anyway, so that's what I'm going to do here. I'm going to be removing this whole thing, taking it apart. Again, I'm doing a video on it, and hopefully I can fix my problem. And the reason I ended up doing a video is because I talked to my friend Rich Rebuilds, and originally I wasn't going to document this whole process, but then I talked to Rich on the phone, and he's been helping me here and there. And he's like, dude, if you are able to open that and repair it, he said, you will break the internet. I think he was a little bit too excited, but it is true that I haven't seen one video on YouTube of opening this unit up and repairing it. And my guess is that, look, I'm going to just show you the seals, how they are. Look at this. Oh, you know what? It didn't come off this time. So actually, came right off. Oh, there it goes. Came right off the top. So my guess is, just the way this looks and how they have this all sealed up, I'm guessing that there's no rotating components in the inverter. This is all electronics. So I'm assuming that there's some sort of seal. I'm assuming that there's some sort of seal here that separates the coolant from this inverter. I'm not sure. I guess I'll see. So yeah, so he was just asking a question. Let me see who that was. We want to see Shubham Sharma. So this is inside of the inverter. This is the inverter right here. So the power comes in here, 400 volts DC, and as you can see, there's 3 nodes, 1, 2, 3, and the reason there's 3 is because this alters the frequency between the 3 and creates 3-phase power for this motor. This is a 3-phase motor right here. This is not a DC motor. So there's no brushes. This is basically, it's just a AC motor. It's a 3-phase AC motor. So this is the inverter. Now, if I rip this open and there's some seals or something bad and I have to take this motor off, then I will. If not, I need to get back on my filming schedule, because this thing has destroyed my filming schedule for the last 8 weeks. That's why I had no videos on my channel, Warp Perception. I got some really crazy stuff coming up with this Tesla, and of course in my world this thing had to break down. So anyway, so cooling of the batteries, that's a great question. And again, this is my first time working on a Tesla. I'm just using a lot of common sense, and basically this is the coolant pipe. I don't know which one's which, but this is the one going into the drive motor, and this one is going into the gearbox. So I don't know which way this flows, but the coolant runs throughout the entire car. So if you look to the front, let me just show you real quick. I gotta let this car back down, but let me just show you the inlet and outlet. You okay over there, Maddie? You okay? I know, I'm sorry. I don't like live streams either. So, but I wanted to show everybody this. So this is one of the coolant passages. This goes right into the gearbox, and I'm assuming it goes through the gearbox somewhere. Again, I haven't ever opened this before, and this goes up, boom, boom, through that coolant tube, and then back into this motor. I don't know where it goes from there, but it ends up on this side of the drive motor. And I'll let this down to show you where it goes, but basically the cooling tubes run, I'll show you real fast. I'd rather just show you. Un segundo, por favor. Patience. I have no patience, by the way. Okay, there we go. Bam. Alright, so check this out. So the coolant, now my friend Alex is the one I bought this car from. He put Mercedes coolant in it, but this is the coolant reservoir. So now I'm just going to tell you, as far as I know, I'm not 100% sure where it runs, because again, this is my first time working on one of these cars. but they seem pretty simple. It's kind of like a giant RC car. So basically the coolant goes from the reservoir, you know, down through these pumps, then it gets pumped through. So I think it first gets pumped through that coolant heater, which will heat up the batteries when you either go in ludicrous, ludicrous plus, or winter mode, just to keep the batteries at the optimal temperature. So it goes through that heater first, and then it goes down into a heat exchanger with an expansion valve that comes from the AC unit. And that's where the battery cooling comes from. It goes through that heat exchanger, comes back up, goes through these diverter valves, and there is no coolant in this car running through any sort of radiator. Basically what you have is, oh, you can't see it, there's no opening there, boo. But basically this right here is the radiator. I'm sorry, not the radiator. There's no radiators on this car. This right here is the condenser. One condenser, two condensers, and those condensers are for the air conditioning system. And the air conditioning system is what's tied into that heat exchanger, which cools the batteries. So there's no actual coolant through any radiators here. And yeah, and something I did want to show you, you know, talking about Tesla quality here and how these, and again, I get it, but, and I really like the car. This is one of the funnest cars I've ever driven, but I beat the car so bad in 2 weeks that I had it that apparently I caused an isolation error. But check this out. So one day I was driving, this is my second or third day with the car. I was flying on the freeway like 80, and it was raining. It stopped raining. The road was still wet, and I'm like, man, where's all that water coming from on my windshield? So I open this frunk and I look, and check this out. That's the wheel right there. And this is under the hood of an electric car. So then I looked around really closely and I'm like, oh yeah, there's like water stains all over the place, everywhere under the hood. And then also here's the opening in the wheel well. This is just a piece of like kind of pressed cloth. And if you take this out, that's the wheel underneath there. So there's an opening there. There's an opening here leading right into the frunk. There's an opening on the other side, and there's an opening there, and then the whole back is open. Under, you can't really see. I don't know if I could zoom. Oh yeah, I could zoom. There we go. So then there's an opening back there. I don't know. To me, seems like this should have been way more sealed. But again, I don't know if they're cutting costs or what they're doing. But I would think an electric car, electric and water usually doesn't mix. And to go real quick to the back and show you where the cooling pipes run. One more second. Oh my God, I closed the door. What a dummy. Here, let me see if I can reach down there, open this back door. Tesla style. Oh, whoa, there we go. Got it. Okay, so the coolant pipes run in the frame rail. I'll show you that in a second. And then they come to the back here, charger area. So it looks like it's running out and then it's coming back in. But these chargers, I don't know if you can see it right there, they are water cooled. So it's running into each one of these charging modules. And okay, whoa, fuse box. Okay, hold on. So please tell us about the fuse box. Which fuse is used for which function? Okay, so I assume you're talking about the high voltage fuses. So there's a few fuses here. Now I honestly do not know what these are for, because they're only 100 amps and a couple small ones there. I'm assuming those are for the control circuits inside that high voltage junction box. This right here is a fuse for the front drive motor. That I know for sure. So it's coming from I think this is the fuse. Is it fuse or contactor? I can't remember. I think this is the fuse for the front drive motor. And then the other fuses, this right here is the fireman's loop that you disconnect from this connector here, which is conveniently located under a whole bunch of stuff that you have to take off here. It's not easy. It's not like just going in there, but they do leave the loop in case you have an accident. The fireman needs to cut it. The loop is kind of just like sticking out right there, just hanging out. And this fireman's loop, what it does is it disconnects the high voltage interlock loop. Basically, it disconnects the high voltage contactor that's located in the high voltage battery compartment. And then there's some 12 volt fuses here. 1, 2 boxes, which don't really seem to do much, at least not in my case. And there's one more fuse underneath the car. Sorry for the noise. Hopefully nobody has headphones on. Alright, and then there's one more fuse. Now again, I've never opened this, but I believe it's located right inside here. I was actually kind of excited to take the battery pack down and open it up because I have this special tool from my HVAC days that will just open that battery pack up really easy. But I'm glad I didn't need to do it because if you guys see the next video I have coming up on warp perception, you'll understand why I was so upset. So if you look inside there, I don't know if you could see it down in there, but there's a coolant hose. I don't know if you could see it, but there's a coolant hose that runs through this frame rail and goes right into yeah, unfortunately I don't have anything open so you can see inside the battery pack, but there are videos. There's one place like in Arizona that opens them and fixes them, you know, because the sad part is about these cars that there's 7,104 cells, 18650 laptop batteries inside this giant battery, and if one cell out of 7,000 goes bad, Tesla will remove the entire battery pack, and I'm told just put it in this yard for storage to figure out what they're going to do in the future to recycle it for one cell. So there's one place in Arizona, one shop, and I think they were like the first one to start working on the original Tesla Roadsters like 15 years ago. They actually open these packs and they clip the wires going to each part of the cell, put it all back together and put it back in the car because it's only one cell or two cell out of 7,500 or 7,104. It's really not going to make a difference, but it's definitely going to save the planet because imagine if when there's more electric. Oh, the battery pack I believe it's $15,000 for the battery pack. It could be $12,000, but that's not even the concern here. Let's say you had the money, right? Because this seems like a very expensive toy. This car, the sticker price is $130,000, and but the biggest problem is here, you know, planet Earth, because what happens when there's more and more cars that are electric, and if every manufacturer is pulling the battery pack out and throwing it in a yard, or I don't know what they're gonna do, because what Tesla's saying, at least what I read online, is that 15,000. Yep. And so basically what Tesla is saying is that right now, at least this is what I read online. I mean, you can't believe everything you see. They're saying that Tesla said the recycling cost is too high for these batteries. So I mean, I don't know. There's just got to be more guys working on them. And the problem I had is I don't have any access to the MCU, which is a media control unit, to look at any codes or troubleshooting or anything. Now, I called Tesla. They came out, yeah, in the metal frame rail. You got it. So Tesla came out. The dude was super cool. I'm not going to show his face, but you'll see in the final video that I'm going to post on this channel. He came out, and he literally, I waited 2 weeks for that appointment. He came up, he walked in, and I'm like, man, I wonder what he's going to say that the whole car's ripped apart. He didn't say anything. He was completely unfazed. I told him, this is what I'm having, isolation error. There's a lockout. I called some of my friends who have another garage, and they do a lot of work, and I told him, man, you know, if I fix the ISO error, will the car just start and run? And he's like, yeah, it'll be fine. But in reality, Tesla did an update sometime early 2020 where they have an isolation counter now. So if it hits 10 isolation errors in one ignition cycle, then it gets locked out. They lock it out for safety. So the guy from Tesla, he just walked in, hooked up the laptop real quick to the Ethernet port. He opened up Tesla Toolbox and he's like, okay, got it. Yep, I see the error right here. It hit the counter. Boom, boom. He reset it, got in the car, started it up. Things started right up. And he's like, you need anything else? I'm out of here, man. I got a few more calls to do. And I'm like, well, I guess that's it. I'm just going to turn off the car. I'm going to fix the isolation error. And then the Tesla technician told me, well, you could just drive it if you want. But I'm like, well, what's the point of that? Because the isolation error still exists. And if the isolation error exists, then I'm going to have the same old problem again. I'm going to have a waiting game, and I need to do some videos. Like, I'm so behind. So I'm just going to show you the isolation error, and then I'm going to end the video here. I really don't like doing live streams because I'm anxious and I just feel like I should always have action here. Reply to my last question. Let me see what the last question was. Sorry. Let me look real quick. 15,000. Yeah. Hold on. Let me just. Yeah. No. So yeah. Shubham Sharma. Yeah. That's what I was saying. So you asked about the battery pack. I don't have a battery pack open. You can look those up on YouTube. There's a guy in Arizona who rebuilds these batteries. He has some of the best videos I've ever seen. And yeah, so I mean that would be my advice. Just go on YouTube, and I can't remember the name of his channel, but here I'm just going to show you the isolation error. So we need a special meter like this one. This is a mega ohm meter, or meg ohm meter, whatever they call it. So I'm going to hook up to the ground, right, just like this, and then so you're really supposed to have high voltage gloves even when you use this meter. And I hope you can see the spark on the video. But basically this meter, if you see it says 500 volts right there, that means that my test voltage, watch, I could do a test voltage of 1,000 volts. Be careful, Maddie. 50 volts, 100 volts, 250, 500, or 1,000. And in this case, since it's a 400 volt system, we're going to do a test voltage of 500. And I'm going to show you what has destroyed my life for the last 8 weeks. So here we go. Positive side, so we're measuring the isolation from this high voltage bus to the ground of the chassis. And I hope it still has the error because now it's dry. All the coolant is right here on the table, as you can see. So here we go. Okay, so it's still there, 1.9, and it starts going up to 3.2 million. And that tells me that there's still some moisture in there because it's leaking the voltage. The voltage is decaying. And let's check the negative side. It's higher than it was though, because before I had this out of the car, it was starting out at about 1.2 million on both bars. And I don't know if you can see the spark. You can't really see it because it's too bright. But basically, this injects the windings with 500 volts to replicate a charge system. They call it pre-charging in the Tesla. So when this whole thing charges up with power, they call it pre-charging, and that's when it senses for the isolation error, isolation fault. So here we go again. Boom, 1.9. And if I check it right away again, see how it starts up at 2.4. But if I wait for a second, it goes right back to 1.9. So that's telling me that somewhere the voltage from this, the electrons from this bar are leaking out to ground. And this should be over 4 million volts. So as you can see, I'm very close to the threshold, which makes it even more difficult because I never worked on one of these cars before. I went into this with absolutely no knowledge. See, 1.9. And then second bar, 2.6. So yeah, so that's my plan. Let me just make sure nobody had any more questions. Oh, too low. Yeah, too low. Oh, you're welcome. Yep, exactly. Volvo 09, a whisper of a short circuit. Exactly. And that's what I was mentioning earlier in this stream, is that the one thing about the Tesla is the BMS is really good at sensing those isolation errors before they cause any damage. So, yeah, it looks kind of crazy, right? Looks like something from a spaceship or something. But as I'm doing this live stream, I'm kind of looking inside there, and I can see that it's hollow. Look inside there. It's all hollow. So, yeah. So I'll see what happens. I'm excited to take this all apart and see. I mean, I don't know if these have any cooling passages. I mean, honestly, I don't know. My guess is as good as yours right now. I'm assuming that there's a bunch of transistors in there that are making the switching circuit to create an AC current. And my guess is that, this is just my guess, that these are cooling plates, and there's some sort of set of lines where the coolant flows through to cool those plates. But I'm not 100% sure. I've never taken one of these apart before. and I can't really see inside. Let me see if I can get the camera in there a little bit better. Not really. So anyway, yeah, so I'm gonna end this live stream here if nobody has any more questions, and I'm gonna eat something real quick and get right to work, carefully taking all this stuff apart. Oh, is that a Vespa? Hello. My neighbor. So anyway, so yeah, so that's what I'm gonna plan on doing right now. I'm gonna take this apart, and I'm getting excited. I mean, what's the worst that could happen? I just gotta make sure I do not drop anything. So let me just check the comments, see if anybody had any other questions. Yeah, TK. So yeah, maybe, I don't know. I think it's overall, it's pretty well designed. I mean, all these engineers have Elon probably yelling at them every single day. So I'm sure they're trying to do their best so they don't get fired because they have a family to feed. I'm pretty sure. But, you know, again, this is corporate structure, so who knows? As for the cooling, yeah, you know, the first thing I thought, TK, looking at this, is that if they did some sort of cooling, they should have looked back at like liquid cooled gaming PCs and saw what they did, because they would use non-conductive coolant, and that's the first thing that I thought. But that might mask the problem, right? Because if you have a bad leak inside of this, chamber, then who's to say that this whole thing is not going to fill up with fluid eventually and cause a bigger problem? I don't know. I guess that's a design challenge, but I mean, the old liquid cooled PCs used a non-conductive coolant, and for me, that's the first thing I thought. But again, I mean, I'm excited to post that video soon. Hopefully, I'm going to fix this by the end of the day today, and get this car back on the road so I can do my next video for warp perception, which I was really excited about. Life always works that way, you know. But oh yeah, that's true. That's true. Yeah, you're right about that. The oil. I'm talking to somebody in the live stream. They're asking a question. He's saying that TK said, but in transformers, oil is also kind of an isolator.
How could you hear him?
Oh, I'm reading his comment right here. Look, check it out.
And are you putting it in the video?
He said, awaiting your vid. No, this is the video. I'm making the video right now. This is a live stream.
But are you putting it in the live stream?
Yeah, it goes in there. It goes in there. So it looks like I'm just reading everybody's questions because they're having questions. That's what I was telling you, is that I haven't seen anybody on YouTube, and neither did Rich from Rich Rebuilds, anybody on YouTube taking this thing apart. No, you have to wait till I'm done with this because I don't want you to get hurt over there. Oh my God, Volvo 09, dude, man, you don't even want to know. I don't even want to spoil it because I'm just so upset that this car broke down. I'm so upset about that, and apparently people are jumping on because YouTube shows the preview of whatever I'm putting the camera on, and apparently people like how this looks. Looks like something from a movie. But enjoy my meal later, yeah. So this isn't the engine. No, so this is the inverter, and this is the motor. And then this right here is the gearbox, which reduces the RPM of this motor down. I believe it's 10 to 1. So this creates AC electricity to run this motor. And the reason it's AC, I'm pretty sure, is because they have to vary the frequency depending on the accelerator position. And a lot of other factors, right? Antifreeze is conductive. Hold on 1 second, sorry. Let's see what you said. Antifreeze is conductive. I think antifreeze is conductive. At least it is when it's mixed with water. But you know, water is not conductive as long as it doesn't have minerals. If you get distilled water, I don't believe distilled water has any conductivity. The minerals are what actually conducts the electrons. So yeah, and then the front drive unit is over there. So really quick for Ryan, he just jumped on. I'm about to finish this live stream. About 40 minutes went by already. Can you explain the issue at hand here? Yeah, I have an isolation error, BMS FO27, which is isolation fault repeated multiple times. And I opened up the drive unit and the drive inverter, and coolant came pouring out of the bottom. So that is more than likely my isolation issue. So I'm going to end the live stream here. I appreciate everybody. That's why he had an insulation error when the coolant came in contact with the electronics. Exactly. And I don't actually think it was with the electronics. I don't know if the electronic would kick an isolation error. I actually believe it was one of those bus bars. And so if you look at those bus connections right in there, there's 1, 2, 3, which I don't know, I've never taken this apart before. But yeah, but I'm pretty sure it's causing an isolation fault between one of those bars and the case. So Ryan, no, I haven't fixed it yet, but I did locate the problem, which is inside this inverter. So I was just doing a little live stream to show everybody, because my friend at Rich Rebuilds, you can look up his channel, he was really excited that I was doing this, and he's like, dude, you have to share this with everybody, because nobody has ever done this on YouTube. In the history of YouTube, nobody's ever taken this apart and fixed it on camera. So he was really excited. He said, you absolutely have to do it for the Tesla community and everybody that's interested. And I promised him I would. So so here I am doing a live stream, which I don't like to do live streams, but I am shooting the video. So if I fix it today, I hope to God. Can you imagine, look, can you imagine Tesla's throwing these things away for these isolation errors? You can just Google isolation error Tesla, and you'll see all these stories of people that have had these same isolation errors. And what does Tesla do? They take these units out, throw them in the trash, and give them a brand new unit. Now, imagine, I'm going to rip this apart, and this is what Rich was really excited about. I'm going to rip this apart, and imagine if it's just some sort of seal, or they use some fippage like this, right? And maybe this was early on, and maybe they don't have enough experience, and they don't have the right compound, and it's just leaking coolant. Or maybe it's a little, a little copper ring or a seal. Can you imagine? That's like a $5 fix. And they're throwing these things in the garbage. These things sell for anywhere from $4,000 to $6,000 used. I don't know what they are new, but I've heard, $12,000, $15,000 repair new. So yeah, but oh, thank you, man. I appreciate that, Ryan. I'm very anxious, so I always feel like there has to be some action happening. And yeah, but I don't know. Maybe it's just my anxiety. That's why I stopped drinking coffee like a year ago. But yeah, so I'm going to end the stream right here. Hopefully you enjoyed this. Hopefully this gave you more information on the Tesla. I wish I had seen a live stream like this before I started tearing that car up and breaking my windshield. But no, so TK, it's actually, the error is here. If you look back at the live stream, I explained that there was coolant inside of this housing right here. Look at that housing. That's the inverter housing. But if you look back at this live stream, I'm going to leave it up on my channel here. And yeah, that's about it. I don't want to repeat everything I already talked about, because I get bored very easy. But hopefully you enjoyed this. Hopefully this gave you a little bit of an inside look to the Tesla Model S. And see you later. Take care.